I get a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Curran, second by Mr. Denisha. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. I get a motion to approve the minutes of March 27th. Mr. Hall first and Mr. Curran second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The resolution, we have Don Chambers from Highway. We have an authorization, we have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Jefferson, Lewis, Hamilton, Herkimer, Oneida, Ford, Cooperative Educational Services for drug and alcohol testing services. Can I get a motion on this current, Mr. Forsythe?
Thank you. Under the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act, all commercial driver's license drivers are required to have a random alcohol testing. And in the past, we have been utilizing the BOCES group to perform that third party. Actually, in 2022, we spent $40.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried.
Thank you.
We have a resolution modifying the 2023 budget for the Department of Highways for replacement of the Lacombe Road Bridge in the town of Norfolk, bin 3341-420. Motion, Mr. Burke and Ms. Curran. Don?
Thank you. The Lacombe Road Bridge in Norfolk is small. Placement. Workforce to place structure. So to do that, we need to shift money. One shifts to method. Reimbursements. We carried over skate bridge. Steel and now
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried.
Thank you.
We have a resolution modifying the 2023 budget for the county administrator's office for the purchase of a dump trailer from multi-use trails funds. Can I get a motion, Ms. Curran and Mr. Denisha?
Leave Deb.
Deb on?
Well, and the this trailer that's being proposed for the trail system is proposed to be used primarily to move the equipment that is owned by St. Lawrence County for trail maintenance. At this point, trail depth and volunteers are utilizing their own trailers to move greenways.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And we have a capital project. What's on?
First ones. Wow. So these very successful. And very detailed list of things that we are operational. But the printout that was given to you regarding the three outposts, Lisbon, Russell, and Potsdam. The first column at the bottom, we county authorized $3 million in bond funds to be used toward this project. We received $400,000 from the New York State DEC Clean Water grant for the mussel salt storage for $400,000. The next column is highway fund balance. We utilized just over $3.7 million from highway fund balance from both the Fund 3 and Fund 4 for a total of approximately $3.7 million. And then from another general fund contribution of $3 million for a total of just over $10.1 million. At this point, our projected costs are one for the three facilities is around $9.9 million. With about 177,000 mainly grading, filling the base installation of the general. That's all those things are captured.
One of the things I think to give the board an update on this successful project certainly always rings true. The definition of success is under budget, but also the service level that's been provided, the adjustment that staff have made has been tremendous. And in looking at where the contributions came from to pay for this, I will remind you that the board initially looked at favorably of bonding for two of the facilities. And that's why you will see in the reporting for the highway fund balance, we took those down to precipitously low levels to utilize cash to pay and only finance for one of our facilities. You can see it divides out a little differently than that, but our general fund also made up the difference, so we didn't bond. And the 3% bond costs are lower than they would be had we doubled the amount financed. So really responsible, in my mind, approach to getting this project accomplished, minimizing our long-term debt obligation, but also coming in under budget allowed the consideration recently of the generator purchase and installation, also allowed us the flexibility. We had some changes to make relative to our fuel island pumps there, and really have an opportunity to serve the public well. I've asked Don to put together, once Potsdam is complete, that we could have a community type open house there, so the folks can see what the work that has been accomplished will do for the county.
Perfect.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to go and visit. We did a tour with our town in Lisbon last year. Don was nice enough to take us, very impressive. Actually, Tom Lisbon's talking about trying to construct one now themselves. Almost identical. So, top of line, they're very professionally done. Coming in under budget, even better yet. So, they're very impressive. So I encourage you.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. Next up, we have Pam Lewis from Leola. We have modifying payroll year Leola budget to transfer formula funds from administration account to adult account, and I get a motion. Current, I get a second. Mr. Forsythe. Pam, go ahead.
Thank you. Under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act program, administrative funds are pulled from each funding stream, adult, dislocated worker, and youth, and can only be used for very specific purposes. One of those being fiscal staff salaries. Our fiscal office has been down a senior account clerk for the past year, and that has resulted in an excess of administrative funds, which can be better utilized elsewhere. This transfer allows the flexibility to serve as many eligible individuals as possible. This has been approved by the Workforce Development Board at its March 8th quarterly meeting. In addition to serving more individuals, the transfer supports us reaching the 80% required expenditure.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Next up, we have vacancy review committee, Ms. Doyle.
So the remaining department to be reviewed under this committee is highway. Ask Mr. Chambers to come back up. There's two positions he's requesting your consideration for. And I wanted to revisit for the legislators who joined us, but also for the board, with vacancy review committee this month. There is one position that we are considering in abolishing create structure, and that is for the position to head the fiscal unit in social services. We had a very good discussion on vacancy review, and the outcome of that is supportive for whatever means necessary to get that position where we can get a talented person to come in and fulfill that role. That is still in the works, and I will bring that to you next month, but want you to know we're carefully giving consideration to how that position is structured so that we can get someone to fill that position. We are yet to fill the position that has been a year. So stay tuned. We'll get you some information this next month so that you can consider that change of position as well. Pat?
Thank you. Both positions that we have in front of you this evening is for heavy equipment operators. Unfortunately, both of these positions were as a result of the termination. The heavy equipment operator is we have basically motor equipment operators, more of an entry level position, whereas equipment operators more of a specialized operator that typically would be things. Certainly. They are critical to our past.
Any questions? Thank you, Don. Good. Next up, the ARPA update. What else?
Yes, short update tonight. We do have one resolution for your consideration that I'll present next. I wanted to let you know that the Clifton Pine Hospital funds contract is now in place, and those funds are being paid out. So their work on their emergency department hospital renovations have come forward and to hopefully fruition for that region in that area. The resolution we spoke about briefly. We did talk about this in the ARPA committee as well. The probation department received support for ballistic vests, And at the time, they had a vacancy as well as a person retiring, and only took as much as they had for staff at the time. Well, even in just this period of time, they've seen some changes in staffing and need to utilize what we suggested, rather than out of their budget, utilize the rest of the ARPA funds to make those purchases so that it's one combined expense. So before you tonight is the balance of that, from the 10 to the 13,000, that will allow them to purchase, I believe, 2 or 3 additional vests, and they'll have those in place for staff. Questions? I see a motion.
Pardon? No. Motion. Funds for ballistic vests for probation officers in St. Lawrence County and modifying the 2023 budget for the probation, Mr. Denisha and Mr. Smithers. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Next up, Buildings and Ground Committee. Mr. Denisha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, the Buildings and Grounds Committee, along with Beardsley Associates and our own in-house folks, been working hard over the last few months on the renovation for the public safety, and thought that it would be helpful for the board to see the design changes. You know, it's we also have some large prints in Ruth's office, but you know, it's felt it was one thing to look at the print, but it also might be helpful to actually see a 3D overlay of the actual project. So at this point, John MacArthur.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So I'll. Can we share our screen?
We can.
Go ahead.
Okay. Somebody else is sharing, so there. Let me try it now. There we go. Okay.
And John, if you could, just give a short introduction of who's joining us from Beardsley today, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I will. We've got, okay, I'm the project manager for this project for Beardsley. I'm a multidiscipline engineer. Also joining us today is Michael Reynolds, the architect and principal for this project from Beardsley, as well as Bernie Brown, who is the lead architectural designer, does most of the drafting that you'll see today, and he's also going to run the video for us. So I thought we'd start out just by doing a review of the floor plans, just to I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the building, just to kind of as an introduction to the building, and then we have kind of a 3D walkthrough over for parts of the building that are being renovated to give you a better sense of what the new spaces are going to look like. So I'll start in the basement. This is a removals plan. So everything that's in red is what is going to be removed. And most of it is in this quadrant here. This is the, and let me zoom in a little bit.
John, can you make that full screen? Oh, that's better. A little better.
Is this better? Okay. So to give you some, you know, a little bit of clarity as to where we are, this on the first floor, this would be the main entrance to the building and the stairs leading down to the basement. So in the basement, this is the existing backup operations room, and the existing races room, existing radio room. There's a small surgeon's office here. This is your current server room, and this is a storage room. So this is all going to be rearranged and this is what it will become. We're going to move the sheriff's detectives from the second floor down to the basement, and this will be their new space here. This space will become an overflow locker room for the sheriff's department. They are very tight on locker space. And this will be a kind of a combined radio and server room for the space. This will create the small interview room to take the place of the interview room that's now on the second floor. And then on the other side of the building, next to the existing conference room, we will renovate the kitchen into the new wiretap room. So on this, on this level, the basement level, what you're seeing in yellow, these are going to be the new renovated spaces for the sheriff's department. So I'll take you up one level to the main level. This is the main entrance coming into the building. Right now, this is where the existing dispatch, the acronym we use is PSAP for this and the rest of the emergency department. New York State Police is over on the left. The County Sheriff's Department is over on the right. We will renovate this. I'll turn the colors off for now. In what was the PSAP will now become the county's the sheriff's civil office, which is currently on the second floor, and that will occupy the space formerly occupied by the emergency department. The sheriff's department will essentially stay unchanged, except for a little. They get a little bit more wall space, a little bit more floor space in this area, as we're turning this into kind of a corridor. New York State Police will stay unchanged. And so this is what it's going to look like. The blue is going to be the sheriff's civil department. The yellow will be the current sheriff's suite. On the second floor, I'll start out with the emergency department. The second floor is going to be fully gutted and completely rearranged. So the emergency department is moving up into the southwest quadrant of the second floor with a new dispatch room, new server room, offices, reception, storerooms. And to the east of that, in this corner, is going to be a conference room that will be, can be open for use by any department, but when it's needed, it will become the emergency operations center. And it is, we've incorporated a set of doors here. So the emergency operations center and the emergency department can essentially be segregated in a security situation from the rest of the building. On the left-hand side of the drawing, which is currently the planning department and the sheriff's detective suite, is going to become the new DA's department, the DA's district attorney suite. And then the existing a conference room is going to become the grand jury room. So this will be the DA suite. This will be the emergency department. So that's just kind of a quick overview of the changes that are going to take place. As you probably have a sense now, there's going to be a few changes in the basement, a few more on the first floor, and the second floor is going to be completely changed. So now we'll run you through actually, we'll run you through a video that we've created showing some of the spaces that are being renovated, not all of them. And the intent of this video is to give you kind of a feel for the new geometry of the space rather than to create a photorealistic rendition. We just want to be able to present something to give you a feel for the space and the kind of finishes that are going to be in there. So,
John,
yeah,
also, I think you should mention the sprinkler system and the mechanical system updates.
that's true. There's what I've been talking about are just the architectural changes, and there's a lot more to this project besides that. We are completely changing out the mechanical system in that we're not changing the type of mechanical system. We're just updating it. It's a heat pump system, and most of those are beyond their best buy date. So we're going to upgrade all of the heat pumps and make some other upgrades to the mechanical system, replace the ventilation system. We're also adding another big change is we're adding a sprinkler system to the building. There's a very small sprinkler system with maybe 4 heads in it right now. And we're going to give it a sprinkler system that will cover the entire building. We're also making some upgrades to telecommunications in the building and security and access control as well. So thank you, Michael. That's a great point.
Sure.
So the video that Bernie is going to show you starts in the entry vestibule, and we'll just kind of show you the new public greeting space for the civil office, and then take you up the stairs to the 2nd floor. So I'll let Bernie do that, and I'll narrate, and Bernie, you can just pause as we talked about. And I'll have to stop sharing. Okay, so this is starting in the entry vestibule. And you can see what we're seeing on the right. These are the public access windows for the civil department. Where people will be interacting with them through these transaction windows. Now we'll go up the stairs. We will be redoing. You want to stop there, Bernie? We're going to redo the look and feel of this stairwell. Right now, it's a very tight stairwell, and one of the main changes is we are taking there's a wall. You can use your cursor, Bernie, to show that on the left-hand side that extends up as a kind of a half wall that handles the railing. We're taking that out and replacing it with a glass banister guardrail system. So that'll just open the space up a bit more and allow people coming up and down the stairs to see each other before they get into a collision condition. Also, looking straight ahead is a window that goes into that 2nd floor conference room. Okay, go ahead. We're going to change also the lighting in most of the building is going to be different lighting than is currently there. And we'll go through and stop when you get in this. So this is kind of the entry to the grand jury room, large corridor. And then we'll go into the grand jury room next. There aren't many changes in here except finishes. And we'll upgrade the lighting as well. We'll go next through a new doorway into what will be the DA suite. And this is an open office area in the DA's office. And on the door you see on your right, yep, that's an evidence storage room. And on to the left of that is an interview room in the DA's suite. And then we'll kind of go down the corridor. There are offices all around the outside of this. And this is another open office area with offices to the right and behind us here. Go through these doors into the corridor, go down the corridor here and stop here. Currently right now there are, down at the end of the corridor, you can see there's an opening which would lead you back to the grand jury room. And on that corridor, there are 2 existing bathrooms. We are keeping both of them, but changing how you get to them. Where Bernie's cursor is right now is showing a, yeah, if you want to show the floor plan, Bernie. So this is where we are looking down there and show where the existing bathrooms are now. So that we're taking 2 existing bathrooms. We're going to end up with a total of 4, and we're converting them to single-use bathrooms so that they are they're all going to be gender-neutral bathrooms. Be a small corridor leading to the existing one at the top, and then there'll be another bathroom which will be associated with the emergency services department, and 2 more public access bathrooms right adjacent to the drinking fountain that you see there. Okay, let's go back to the video. So here we're now going into the emergency services department. This is a little security vestibule. And this will be the conference room, which will become the emergency operations center if it's needed for that. In those instances, these tables you see there will be pushed against the outside walls, and all of the different players that will be in this room will then be seating around the outside walls, and we're incorporating all the technology we need so that everybody can come in and plug in laptops and use this room for whatever's needed in that emergency. So we're going to go back into that security vestibule and enter the emergency department. This is the reception area. And we'll go down into the dispatch room. This will be the new dispatch room area. Currently, as part of this project, we're going to have 6 dispatch stations, but the room is being sized for a total of 8. And what we're showing now is all 8 dispatch stations. On the far wall, there's a large video display screen, and that'll be repeated. Yeah. And that'll be repeated on this wall as well. And that's essentially our walkthrough. So, you know, if anyone has questions, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Any questions? Mr. Burke?
That emergency room that you talked about, that looked like it had 6 tables.
Yes.
How is that going to be utilized? I think you explained in the event of an emergency. But I guess I'm wondering on a day-to-day basis how much that.
On a day-to-day basis, that'll just be a conference room that could be utilized by any department in the building for meetings. And maybe Ruth, you can comment on this if that's also open to other departments as well.
Yeah, if you'll remember, back during the height of COVID, this was the emergency operations center. With this, that's where the emergency operations. But when it's not used as an emergency operations center, it'll be a conference room that's open for folks to use.
We currently use this space and have emergency services as a backup. We're going to flip the narrative because this room doesn't keep up with technology the way that certainly they'll be able to in this space. If you also recall that grand jury space, the new grand jury space is our current public safety conference room. And so that's going to be offline for the district attorney's office. So this is another area that would be available for reservation. Either emergency services or our office.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
On to,
I just, John, Mike, Bernie, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It's, I think we've got a good product coming, and I just want to, there's been a lot of work on a lot of folks. Obviously John, Mike, and Bernie have been, the real drivers on this. But gotta give some credit to Kevin Karn from NICET, Joe Brayshaw, our project manager. We've helped in buildings and grounds. Obviously, Matt provided a lot of input. And the list was on. So I think we're going to have a good product here. And after you go home and you think that, gee, I wish I'd asked this question. Write it down and ask it, and we'll get an answer for you.
thank you again.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Okay, moving on to the 2023 first quarter financial update.
Yes, so in your agendas, there are two sets of reports. For new legislators, this may be the first time you're seeing. So if returning legislators would indulge, I'll just spend a couple extra minutes on what this report is and the function that it serves. So the first report is only 2 pages, and it summarizes the general fund by department, and it summarizes the capital funds at a very high level. So when you look at the first report, you will see that many of our departments, I believe there are 5 of them, look inverted. So they look as though they've taken in more revenue than they've spent funds. And I'll go into that in our second report. But this is a high level. I'll remind you that at that general level across the top, it won't match what our levy was. And if you remember, we appropriated fund balance this year from 3 separate funds, so those numbers shouldn't match. So the top number that you see is a 51,905,859. Remember, our part of our fund balance appropriation included 203,000 from the health and liability reserve pulled into the county attorney's budget for the stop loss purchase. So that's the difference if you were to less that from what our levy was. That is in the general fund and really the only impact of our appropriated fund balance spent for this year. But the overall summary is that you have 9 departments who come in above that magic 25%. Largely, you hear me say every quarter that I report out that it's due to revenue that comes in. Once the quarter closes, we complete the reimbursement, we submit to the state, and that comes in when they decide to make those reimbursements and make the counties. I will say when you look at Board of Elections, County Clerk, Real Property, and the Treasurer, that's what I was referencing before. They've taken in more revenue at this point in the year than they've spent. So that's why those numbers look reversed. You also have 9 departments, not the same 9 departments, only 5 of the same departments that are within 10% of that variance. So I think that starting out the year, That's not a bad number to be looking at. You've got some folks that came in around 20%. You've got some folks that are a little higher at 29, and you've got a few outliers that are much higher than that. But that you can drill down into in the second set of reports. So the second page of the 2-page report that I'm reviewing now includes that very high level capital and separate fund report where we sit today. When you look through the adopted county cost, in most of these you see zeros. But remember, there were the 3 categories that we appropriated fund balance from. First one I reviewed that impacted the county attorney's budget. The second 2 are solid waste and liability and casualty fund. Those are the 2 places. If you total those 3 that I just gave you, you'll come up with $601,630. And that is the total of appropriated fund balance we spent, separate from the levy. You can see the percentages. The challenge with these funds is, especially capital, it rolls over year to year. So you aren't always going to see that calendar year appropriation and have it booked in. You will in areas like solid waste and in highway, but you won't in capital. Self-insurance and liability are separate funds with their own reserves, remember, as well. Any questions right now on the 2-page report? Okay. And moving on to the much longer report, 9 pages. That includes a much more in-depth assessment of the category summary of the departments. So when you see Board of Elections or you see real property or any others that you have questions with, you can drill down into the categories. We've separated them the way that our account structure is set up. So the first area is personnel. That's our 1s. If you were to look in the budget book or online, our equipment's are 2s. Contractual, all the negotiated contracts that we have in place for services are in the 4s. Revenues come through in the 5s. And then at least in this summary, you capture some of the treasurer's budget with the debt principal, debt interest payments, and the fund transfers. But when you go down through, for example, I'll start with an area of interest to the board, community services, and the revenue associated with community services. And with all the discussion and all of the challenges that we have, community services revenue for the first quarter came in at 22%. It could be much worse. Now they've done a tremendous amount of work in that time to go back and capture these funds and record them. So when they come in as reimbursement, we see those totals become cash rather than just accruals. But those totals came in, that number isn't outside the norm. It would be in that variance that I talked about a few minutes ago. Board of Elections, I'll just point out just above that, you can see their revenues in at 87%. So they take that entire charge back to begin with, and then they spend throughout the year in all the categories.
Any questions yet? Foresight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the $2,501,197 in community services, that actual money received or actual money paid?
That would be a combination of both.
Okay,
So if they've submitted a bill, they've recorded it until it's denied, and then they're carrying that balance.
okay.
Okay, we can get you a breakdown of that. We look at that every week.
Right.
Okay. So moving forward, again, each department has that breakdown between people, equipment, contracts, and benefits. And we came in, just as a reminder, at the very top, you'll see all funds combined. We're at 20% of our personnel costs right now. So we're well within reason for the spend, although you also consider the vacancies. Those leave the funds that don't overspend during the year. Our benefits are coming in at 20%, so we're writing about the same area for both. Moving on through, a couple of areas I wanted just to point out to you, County Clerk, if you remember in budget, with both the impact of the dealers from downstate, as well as the cycle that we see with registrations. We reduced the County Clerk's revenue this year, and we're coming in at this point in the first quarter at 15%. So we'll continue to watch that and keep you updated. Often Sandy will come in and have conversations with you about what they're seeing, or make requests for of recruiting new dealers. So that's a very active piece of the revenue that we'll continue to watch throughout the year. Emergency services, you're all familiar with many of the between tower projects, the radio project. There's a lot of activity in emergency services. And certainly the project that will hopefully be going out bid very soon for. You've got $12 million in their modified budget rolled in from last year. That's only 1%. They haven't started making those acquisitions. We've just signed a contract with Motorola just before the end of the year. We'll be making those purchases. I believe we've only spent about $400,000 so far. So keep in mind that that is going to be a part of the project as they move forward with the radios as well. On down through, a lot of times when you see revenue coming in, again, that's the revenue or the reimbursements have not yet been received. And we'll watch that coming into the second quarter to make sure at least they're at that 25-30% coming in mid-year. Other area I wanted to point out was social services. Wanted to remind you that as we've talked about, there's some vacancies there. They are at about 19% of their personnel budget or 20% of their personnel budget. They've seen modest spending in their equipment areas as well as contractual. You've just taken up resolutions this month. Their revenues come in at 20% so far. So they're not lagging too far behind. But again, very important that we get a finance person in that department so that we're confident and comfortable in those numbers. One of the areas that I think we should look at this year is affirmation for the board that the reimbursements against those positions that we bring to you each month, either 100%, 80%, 60%, that those are still valid and holding. So that's of interest to us to figure out the best way to validate that revenue is coming in against those positions. Tonight you also received in your email, you should have a communication from the treasurer with the first quarter sales tax update that's been provided to you. You can see the numbers pulled in there with the revenue at 47% from the treasurer's budget. Performing well, I think 9% came in higher than budgeted. As you may remember, we also moved the budget ahead with the trend that's been sales tax the last few years. Moved ahead the expectation of revenue in that area as well. And then the overall on the bottom of page 6, wanted just to point out those are the general capture of all of the general fund by itself, as we're most separate from highway and a couple of other portions of positions where we capture most of the spend on personnel. Then you also following down through the capital funds, as mentioned on that second page of the first report, is a breakdown category wise as well. Any other questions at this point? Okay. And if you are looking at the report and have any questions, please email, give me a call, and we can go over it in detail. And we certainly can share the revenue breakdown of what's completed for community services. Okay, next up is resolution. Dylan's going to come down and present.
Okay, we have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign maintenance and software agreements with Pitney Bowes for mailing machine and system and central printing and mail and modifying the 2023 budget for the administration. Ms. Curran, second by Mr. Smithers. Dylan.
Okay, so last one of those that were on lease that we took a look at, at least know of. We looked at purchasing versus leasing, and purchasing came in significantly cheaper over a 5-year period. Also did this competitively on New York State contract with New York State vendors. The machine will allow us to add additional services such as electronic certifying, as well as rate shoppings. The service will allow us to type in it is, what we need for it to get to its arrival, you know, it's 1 day, 2 day, and then it would give us the rates from UPS, FedEx.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dylan. We have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the St. Louis County Bar Association for assigned council representation for 2023 through 2025. Motion, Ms. Curran, second by Mr. Forsythe.
So this resolution, you may recall, was withdrawn from an earlier agenda as we continued our communications and negotiations to reach a contract that both entities are comfortable with. The Bar Association should be meeting in the next week's time to review and take a vote. The way that our current setup is filed with OCA, we have an office of the public defender, we have an office of the conflict public defender, and we have a bar association approved plan. And so until such time as that is changed with the filing with OCA, that is the process, which means bar association approves the plan for how ATV services are provided once the public defenders come put it out and the conflict defenders put it out. So we have before you a request for approval of a 2-year contract that would expend $48,000 the first year, $50,000 the second year. It does provide funding for the setup of a long-awaited mentoring program so that senior attorneys can mentor new attorneys within the county. That is something when you talk to seasoned attorneys in this county that has long gone by the wayside and very needed. While our numbers aren't great, our hope is setting up a program like this promotes the opportunity for improved representation. And that is the main focus of indigent legal services these days and the funding we receive associated with that. We also are looking to provide a threshold by which attorneys could be provided legal education. Again, an opportunity, should they take a certain number of cases in a given year, that would qualify them the following year to participate in a certain number of credit hours based upon how many cases they took. Rather than the alternative, which would be chase them all year to make sure they took cases to then provide them legal education. So we thought we would take the look back period and approve a certain level of training available to them. And then it's up to them if they wish to pursue that, but the county would reimburse that training. Again, the common theme to improve representation. And we'd like to step forward. We still provide paper vouchers. So we'd like to work with our association to come up with, and as I know you'd all imagine, Dylan's already working on an electronic form that would allow for the entire process from attorney submission, judge approval, assigned council administrator approval back to the county for the audit. So we're working through that and have some dates tied to trying to move that process into the electronic age, as well as provide some training that ILS is coming out with for the assigned council administrators. So they're well versed on the approach the state's taking, funding that's available to make sure they're reporting back to you and getting as many panel attorneys both qualified and available to take cases. You're all quite familiar, I think, with the fact that we're pulling attorneys all the way from Syracuse across to Plattsburgh to take cases in St. Lawrence County. So coming up with this mentoring program and getting it into place, also with the training opportunities that are available to people who've taken cases, we hope makes it more attractive to take cases in St. Lawrence County. Now, we are also mindful that the state's looking at the rate change, and that's a very different conversation, but nonetheless, you need to have attorneys, and we'd like to have this contract in place. Questions?
Ms. Tiger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mrs. Doyle, did you mention the last time you spoke to us about this, a new program or a new setup for reimbursement? And I was wondering if these attorneys would be trained on that, or tell me a little bit about that. Remind me what you said.
Sure. So we recognize that we have a variety of ages in terms of attorneys in our county, and their comfort level with moving into electronic submission may take some time. And so what we'd like to do is work with both the Bar Association and the magistrates to have this conversation, figure out, make sure all their needs can be met, and that it makes its way all the way through with less room for error, more timely submission and reimbursement to attorneys for the services they're providing.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just a couple more updates before we move on to old new business. Wanted to let you know the Canton Human Services Initiative Board of Directors is going to meet later this week. And just for those who may not be familiar, both the Treasurer Renee Cole and I serve on that Board of Directors as well. So we'll be meeting later this week. We also are hosting another class, this time from the Morristown Central School for a county tour later this week. And certainly I want to pass along my thanks. Youth Bureau does a tremendous job getting this back, reinvigorating this tour, but also getting all the departments and the courts involved so that they can share what they do with the public. We'd love to see classes from every school make their way over to Canton and to our offices to become more familiar with county government. Just a quick IT update. Wanted to let you know that the mail server upgrade you heard about and funded in this year's budget is complete. Our hope is that will very shortly be followed by our transition to the .gov addresses. And as a reminder, they're going to cross over, so the .org addresses will continue on. But our goal is there's better security and a lot of attractive features for the .gov component, as well as a requirement to get there. So we'll be moving in that direction. But next up, as far as a major project goes, in keeping with our financial system, we're moving to a Munis upgrade that will go effective June 1st. So a lot of planning and conversations are taking place about that Munis upgrade.
Mr. Hall, go ahead.
Just curious, what is the .gov URL? Same you have now, just .gov instead of org?
We actually were fortunate, I believe, to get St. Code back up. And lastly, I wanted to mention next week, we will be happily hosting the Hammond girls basketball team and celebrating their state championship in our board meeting proceedings. But prior to that, an announcement went out today, but we've been talking about it for some time. We have our bus shelter over in front of social services that will be hosting a ribbon cutting. An invitation is going out to all of you. Hope you can join us for that. And then it'll be an evening of celebration. On over, and once we start the board meeting, celebrate the girls from Hammond. A combined team, by the way, of Hammond and Morristown. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay. On to old new business. We have a resolution authorizing the county to receive additional administrative funding for the septic system replacement program and modifying the 2023 budget for the planning office. We get motion, Mr. Kern, second, Mr. Lightfoot. Jason.
Thank you. Good evening, all. Thank you. Just maybe a little bit of background would be helpful to explain this resolution. We received a third round of funding for a septic repair program back in October 2022. At that time, it was the allocation was $655,000. However, the way that the program is structured, there's no administrative funds that can be taken out of program money, out of the allocation. So we've worked out arrangements over the last first and second round to have this funding provided by the Soil and Water Conservation District. There's in there the last two rounds to provide the administrative costs to go with the program. In the first two rounds, that allocation was wrapped right into the resolution that authorized the signing of the contract. When we signed the contract back in October, we still had money left in the administrative fund. So that's why it wasn't associated with that resolution. Now we're pretty much out of the admin funds. We went back to Soil and Water. They were again gracious enough to give us some more money this time, $25,000. And that's what this resolution does. It authorizes the county to receive the funds, put it into our account so we can pay for the administration of this program.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, do you feel that'll be enough to finish the program out?
Probably not. It's the first round was we spent about $20,000 for about $250,000 worth of program money. So got some money left in the second round, about $100,000 left out of 340 to the second round, and then another 635. So the 25 probably won't get us there, but we're hopeful that we'll be able to get more money from Soil and Water in subsequent years.
And a follow up, you know where you're at the second round? How much you've expended?
Yeah, about $240,000.
What's the deadline for the last fund now? Is there a date?
December 31st, 2026.
We passed a resolution months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, encouraging the state to open up boundaries to all the waterways. Is there any response or anything?
I have not heard anything specifically to that resolution. I have specific test that was made for I guess an exception from the boundary. And unfortunately, the contract is pretty specific to individual water bodies and at this point, not willing to, flex.
And applications, are there still applications coming in for this?
Yeah.
Question now.
And we're looking at a new, we're working with public health for a new advertising campaign. Again, just to sort of freshen it up a bit because it's out there. We have a good flow of applications, but
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next we have a resolution that was tabled, setting a date for a public hearing on proposed local law A for the year 2023, exemptions for certain members of volunteer fire companies and ambulance services in St. Lawrence County pursuant to section 466A of the real property tax law and repealing local law number 2 for the year 2005 in St. Lawrence County. Does anybody want to bring this off the table? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next. Oh, sorry,
Move it off the table.
pardon,
I moved
you moved it. Is there a second? Okay, Ms. Terminelli? Can I get is all those wishing to take it off the table, say aye.
Aye.
Can you raise hands, please? 1, 2, 3, opposed? 2, 4, 6, 7. So, good, stay stable. Okay, we have another resolution that was previously tabled. This one is approval of payment in lieu of taxes agreements in relation to solar project on parcel 40.004-2-20.22-1 located at 50 Cogswell Corner Road in the town of Madrid. Anybody want to motion it? Mr. Forsyth, the second. Mr. Hall, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Want to speak to this? Mr. Forsyth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know, I'm talking to it a little bit. We met as a group with the solar developer back in January.
Quite a while ago.
Yeah, January. We had some concerns. Mr. Lightfoot originally had brought up concerns about the amount for the pilot. We found out there's really not a lot we can do on these smaller solar arrays. We had some concerns about local labor. They addressed pretty much every concern we had, I believe. Sales taxes generated from the roadways and the infrastructure portion of it, which we hadn't really considered, right? So I'm going to support moving this forward. I think we did our due diligence, and it is what it is, I guess. It is pretty much set piece, so.
Any other questions? I was at the meeting as well. The one question I asked was, what is the carbon footprint that it takes to generate these facilities versus what they save? And they did not get the answer back to us. I will not be supporting it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No,
I'll close that.
too much. Mr. Smithers and Mr. Fay. Motion carries. Okay. Okay, we're on the committee report.
You have to ask for new business.
Oh, I know. Yes, I do. Any new business or old business, sorry. This, old business, Ms. Haggard.
There was a resolution tabled last week that unfortunately has some time sensitivity, and it had to do with the grants at the Youth Development Grant Program. And there's some deadlines coming up, and my understanding is that it was tabled to the next services. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to have that removed from the table so we can address it this evening and talk about whatever it is that needs to be talked about because of the time element involved in this. And these organizations not getting their money or reporting to the state may be impacted.
Okay,
I'm making that motion.
Is there a second?
Just for point of order,
Yes,
may I call upon our parliamentarian to clarify the procedure around moving a table resolution?
yes, go ahead, sir.
I don't know if you can hear me clearly. I'll try to speak up. I don't have a microphone in front of me, but there is a way in which to remove an item from the table prematurely from the date in which it was previously set to. Thank you. Actually, there's a couple of points. Number one would have been if the item had been noticed in this evening's agenda. A member of the prevailing party that voted for the original tabling could in fact make a motion to essentially reconsider at the successive meeting the original motion to table. If it had been noticed properly on the agenda, then not only could you move to remove it from the table prematurely, but you could in fact vote on substantive material in that evening's meeting. If it has not been previously noticed, you may still vote to remove it from the table this evening, but it is immediately placed on the agenda for the immediate successive meeting, meaning next Monday. You cannot vote on the substantive material this evening if it was not previously noticed appropriately as a part of the agenda, even though you may remove it this evening from the table to place it on next week's meeting agenda. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Burke. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Excuse me,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
can we have a reading of what we're voting on exactly?
I don't have that in front of me.
And neither do I.
Mrs. Hargard, I believe it was on the Youth Bureau.
Yeah, Youth Development Program. What exactly is it that we are? The topic of what we are considering right now, what exactly is it?
It's the authorizing the chair to sign the 2023 resource allocation plan signature page and sign contracts with various organizations for the Youth Development Grant Program. And this is from the Office of Family Youth and Family Services. I don't know if I got that right, but it's the allocation to the various groups that will receive funds.
Okay.
I have a copy of it if you'd like to look at it, Mr. Like.
No, I have the gist of it now.
Okay,
I'm more than happy to
we
explain.
have a second. All those in favor of taking it off the table, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Those opposed? It remains stable. Thank you. Any other old business? Ms. Klein? No, I'm on old business.
Okay.
No, go ahead, new business.
So in front of you, you have a resolution opposing the New York Housing Compact as proposed in the Governor Hochul's fiscal year 2024 executive budget, which I would like to talk about. I don't know if we can get somebody to motion to be able to.
Okay, we have a resolution opposing the New York Housing Compact as proposed in Governor Hochul's 2024 executive budget. Can I get a motion? Mr. Sheridan and Mr. Burke.
Thank you. So, as you know, it's a large budget item. The housing issues that are outlined in the bill are not of statewide concern. They're almost
exclusively focused on New York City and the surrounding suburbs, they do not meet the level that would allow the state to take away home rule of zoning in different communities. When you look at how it would negatively impact town services such as police, volunteer, emergency services, schools, and just every part of what we have, it's unrealistic for counties, towns, villages, and school systems to fund this in the smaller communities, and I mean smaller, anything north of Rockland County won't be able to afford these changes. I believe it to be pretty unrealistic, not fiscally responsible, and don't think it was well thought through. It would take away home rule from villages and towns, and they would just tell you what you're gonna build, how much you're gonna pay for it, and how much of your tax, money you're going to spend for each constituent, with no way for towns or villages or counties to do anything about it. I'm hoping you'll support this.
Any other discussion? Mr. Fay?
You went to negotiations, she withdraw that today?
Not that I saw. There's been a lot of people asking her to, because everybody realizes this bankrupts most of the state.
Ms. Terminelli?
I'm going to abstain from voting just simply because this material is just on my desk tonight. I haven't even read the resolution. I refuse to vote on something that I'm not informed about. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Webster?
I would like to be added as a co-sponsor on this. Building more houses in North. To the difference in the way people live in New York City up there is totally different. It would be like us telling them they gotta have 2 acres to build a house down there. So I think I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. To push something like this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Following up on Ms. Terminelli's comments, I'm gonna vote no on it, and I'm not gonna support it, because when we get something like this, I usually go through and fact check and find out what's going on and try to get facts in order, so I'm not gonna be able to support that.
Thank you. Mr. Butler?
Information. It is my understanding that 3 days ago, the sides agreed that they would move it from budget discussions, that they would set aside the expectation that both the Assembly and Senate would take it up as a standalone bill immediately following the budget negotiations.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? I agree. I don't like to vote on something that was just put in front of me, which I haven't had time to read, but I know we have to discuss this previously. And I do agree with it, so I will support this tonight. Mr. Reagan?
I think this is just another attempt to erode the rights of our local governments to control their destinies. Another attempt to override home rule in communities across state. It sets a dangerous precedent for what they're trying to do in the suburban areas outside New York City. You know, it will move on next and be part of the state's efforts to, you know, do other things to communities in the future. You know, the notion, I forget who it was that said it, on the wall of the press room in the Virginia legislature's press room. There's a big sign that says neither property nor life is safe when the legislature is in session. And I read that
back when I was a college student. And that always struck me as an important fact of life, and never, sometimes they say things have been taken off the table in Albany, and there are other discussions going on, and suddenly it appears back in the budget. I think, those of us who believe in home rule, those of us who believe that communities should be able to set their own destinies, should support this resolution and stand up for the rights of communities to have a say in what happens in their community.
Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion to table this resolution just until our next meeting. So everyone has an opportunity to research the topic and have an informed opinion on the matter and a fruitful debate when it's on the floor next.
Is there a second to move this to the next meeting? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seven. Motion fails. Okay. Let's go back to the resolution. Any other discussion? Mr. Denisha.
Chairman, excuse me, you said, I'm not a fan of seeing the resolution when I was at the meeting. However, you're on the sixth whereas. Where it speaks of the Home Targets and Fast Track Approval Act, and general municipal law and overrides the local town land use regulations adopted in town zoning codes, state of New York. We're already dealing with this for solar. So, if Albany, we have home rule. And if we cede our home rule to Albany, which, it's happening. So that one whereas for the meaning of that is the reason that I was.
Mr. Renata.
Great. Wait, what was the vote on the tabling? I'm sorry.
On the tabling.
Yeah.
6, 4, 7 again.
This last one.
That's the did we not vote?
Oh. Oh, right. So,
I know it was 6-7 for the previous one because I had to recuse. But. So what was the vote?
it's
For this one, we're talking about.
7, 7. John's not here.
No, not on this one.
Yeah, 7-7.
Okay.
One absent.
Okay, so 7-7. Okay.
Any other discussion? Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I have a chance to this program, and it's a top-down big government boy to solve problems entirely the wrong way. For use of funds, I think it's well stated. As Mr. Denisha said, it would bulldoze the voice of New Yorkers across the state. So I oppose this. I'm glad I oppose the Governor Hochul's plan on this point, and we'll.
Any other? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand, please. 9, 10, 11, 12. Opposed? Abstained. And Margaret opposed. Motion carries. And before we hit committee reports,
Other new business?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. There's some questions regarding police dispatch on the part of the village governor and confusion and even some misconceptions. And so I'd just like to have an update on where we're at with police dispatch, where we're going, and the assurance publicly that the municipalities that wish to maintain their own police dispatch will be afforded that opportunity. As much as you'd like to address that.
So with the presentation you heard tonight, the county will be moving to have an increase of its current capacity from 4 to 6, with future ability to expand to 8. We've spent some time talking about providing dispatch services to the city. We currently also, as you're all aware, provide dispatch services in some capacity to the village of Canton and Norwood, and have started with Ogdensburg and have a request pending from Messina. Those are the only requests that we've received thus far. You may recall several years ago, we had some discussions with the village of Potsdam, who also then took up their own discussion and decided they would maintain their dispatching in Potsdam. We have not had any discussions with Potsdam since that time, nor have we had any other discussions with municipalities who have not expressed interest. At this time, the municipalities I've mentioned are being provided services. There is an expectation, I believe, on the part of Messina for us to look at that option in the future. We are hopefully, with the board's approval, moving toward our renovations that will allow us the opportunity and capacity to serve those entities who are interested. As I understand the board's current policy, there is no interest in oppressing other governments with services by St. Lawrence County. So those who have requested are in whatever level they've requested being provided services. At this time, that's the extent of the county's involvement.
Is that good?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other new business? Okay. Now, forgot to announce earlier, legislator Jeanette is excused from the meeting tonight. And now we'll move on to committee reports with Cornell Cooperative Extension Board, Mr. Denisha. Nothing to report. Okay, thank you. Fish and Wildlife Management Board, Region 6, Mr. Sheridan.
Nothing to report. They do meet on the 15th of June next time.
Thank you. Fish Advisory Board, Ms. Terminelli.
We have not had a meeting. Our next one is scheduled for, oh goodness. May 23rd.
Thank you. Governor Fair Board, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Yes, the latest figures I have on ticket sales for the Bill and Scott concert, they've sold 21,000 tickets. Sponsors are being sought, and they've got a few sponsors for that concert, so that's going well. They agreed to host the legislatures meeting July 31st, as we talked about. They may wish to have some participation in St. Lawrence County's Got Talent on the part of the Board of Legislatures. Just kidding. Pumpkin Festival is scheduled for September 24th. And that's all I have to report on that.
Okay, move into the highway and solid waste.
Yeah, our commissioner is given a pretty good information on that. Looking forward to seeing those outposts and how they're coming along in construction. It sounds like things are going very well there. That's all in that department.
Okay, thank you. The Industrial Development Agency, Mr. Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'll find on your desk a copy of the recent.
Turn on your mic, please.
Thank you. You'll find on your desk a copy of the ARPA appropriations that were approved by the IDA. I'm going to spare you reading the 142 awards, but I would urge you to take a look at them. They've, I think, done a terrific job of trying to assist small businesses, not-for-profits, and a multitude with help. What's particularly interesting is the geographical diversity. 7 to Potsdam, 5 to Waddington, 14 to Messina, 2 to Louisville, 2 to Black Lake, 4 to Hammond, 3 to Morristown, 26 to Canton, 3 to Madrid, 9 to Potsdam, 2 to Norwood, 16 to Ogdensburg, 2 to Hubleton. Colton Parishville got their snowmobile bridge. Piercefield got 1, Russell 1, Cranberry Lake 1, Governor 10, Lisbon 3, Clifton 3, Norfolk 2, Parishville 3, Stockholm 4, Herman 1, Brazier 2, DeKalb 1. That doesn't include the 250,000 going to the Star Lake Hospital, the 600 projects, which will bring broadband to individual homeowners around the rural areas of the county. I think the board's decision to how it's using the ARPA funds is going to have a real impact across the county and especially in many of our rural areas. You know, some communities, there were no applications. And so you can't really go in and force it down their throats. But I think that I appreciate what the IDA staff did in sorting through all this. And I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention, let them know what's going on.
Thank you. Recreational and Trail Advisory Board. So we talked about some of the issues with the Chromebooks last year. Those are all fixed. Debbie is getting those delivered to the businesses so they can start selling passes. There's still some poor internet Wi-Fi connection issues that some of these businesses being as remote as they are. We talked about the trail passes and that they are on sale now. We have a new business that's selling. That's Jelly Bean Campsites, and you can see all the businesses that are selling the passes on the Chamber's website. And we also decided to nominate a dedicated volunteer to get the #1 trail pass each year. This year they voted on Charlie Schlower, a very active volunteer. Decided to pass on the economic impact survey and put those funds into the physical trail repairs instead. We talked about writing letters in support of the South Bolton Recreational Management Plan, which was due April 21st. We discussed the need of a flatbed trailer to haul equipment. Currently, as like Don talked about the dump trailer earlier, using volunteers equipment for all this. There is going to be an ATV class for 10 to 15 years olds at the Racket Valley Fishing Game Club. And I think that's the 15th and 16th of May, if I'm not mistaken. And we talked about the trail work buying process. It needs to go through the county requisition process. And we requested the USDA to do some trapping of some nuisance beavers. And that's about it. Any questions? Okay, and next is the St. Lawrence River Valley Redevelopment Agency, Mr. Corson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We haven't met. I think we'll be meeting here in the next month, more than likely. The CDEIP grant applications were received up until April 13th at 3 p.m. I think was the deadline. I believe there's 13. I couldn't open it on my iPad, my old fashioned iPad Saturday when I tried. So I haven't opened those to look at them, but I believe it said there was 13 of them. So the IDA will prioritize them and matrix them, and we should have an idea who's getting what fairly quickly.
Thank you. The St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Webster.
Yes, the chamber didn't meet yet. It's gonna be for the 27th. They had to reschedule. I know they've been busy. I've been getting all the emails. Ben did send me an email. I did get to 4 o'clock tonight. So I don't really have all the highlights. But at the next meeting, after the chamber meets, I'll have an update for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
St. Lawrence Water, or Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Directors, Mr. Burke or Ms. Snyder.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We've already reported on our last meeting. Our next meeting is, regular meeting is on May 18th, and we do have a meeting coming up on Wednesday, which is an emergency meeting first. Discussion staffing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I guess we have a need for executive session.
We do for negotiations, litigation, personnel, which is the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters relating to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, and for appointments.
Okay, can I get a motion, Mr. Forsythe, second, Mr. Hall, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, if there's no further business, motion or